health and well-being. And that meant it was just that, a glass of wine. It started out as a glass of wine or two in the evening that, like, I need to relax, that this is my me time, glass of wine while I'm getting dinner ready type of thing. But then over the years, what I didn't know was just the addictive nature of alcohol and how it had built up and built my tolerance as well. So that evening glass of wine became more than just one glass. It became two, and then three, and then perhaps, I suppose, after the last 20 years, it was a bottle of wine a night. And I knew in myself that I needed to cut back or stop. But when I questioned that with myself, it became a case of, well, how? I was so reliant on this glass of wine at night, or by this stage, a bottle of wine. So I was in my mid-50s.
That was Cindy Johnston, and you've landed on the Me&my Health Up podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Hartcher. I'm a clinical nutritionist and lifestyle medicine specialist. The purpose of this podcast is to enhance and enlighten your well-being. And today, Cindy Johnston will be doing that for you. She is a grey area drinking coach, also known as alcohol-free lifestyle coach. She is an expert in the process called EFT, known as emotional freedom technique. And this really helps alleviate anxiety and any distressing emotions that you may have. So this podcast will help you alleviate those emotions without going to the alcohol, and help you live an alcohol-free life where you can enjoy life with more energy and without the hangover, and of course without the extra calories, which results in weight gain. And Sydney does share this through her story. She shares her experience with alcohol, her addiction, so-called addiction to alcohol, and how she broke free of that addiction. And now she helps others break free of their addiction to alcohol and live a liberated, free life of alcohol where they're blooming, they're shining, and they're vibrant. And so if you want to break your habit or addiction to alcohol, then listen in to this episode with Sydney, because she's going to take you through the emotional freedom technique known as EFT. So without much further ado, I'd love to welcome you into the discussion I'm having with Cindy Johnston. Welcome on the Me&my Health Up podcast. How are you, Cindy Johnston?
Very well, thank you, Anthony. Thank you so much for having me on this afternoon.
I'm so glad you reached out following an episode which I asked for, who do you know or who's out there that could add value to our listeners? And you reached out to me. So I really appreciate you taking the initiative and reaching out and sharing what you do, and I'm really keen to share that insight with the listeners today. So what attracted you to the Me&my Health Up podcast as a listener?
I'm just really interested in health and wellness, and when I came across your podcast, I thought, oh, this sounds perfect. And I just love the fact that you do cover a variety of topics as well. Is really informative and just across, so many different topics, as I said, all along health and wellness, which is something I'm really interested in.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, so thanks for being a listener, and thank you for coming on the show. And I really look forward to getting into this topic of freeing people from an alcohol addiction, or whether they're just sick and tired of relying on alcohol for that relief and they're looking for other solutions, because you come with another solution today, and I look forward to exploring that with you. But before we get into that solution to helping people break free of alcohol, please share your backstory as to how you've arrived at what you're doing today.
Well, thank you, Anthony, for the opportunity. So I suppose my story started in this realm of where I am now around about 5 years ago. And I had known for a little while that my relationship with alcohol just wasn't as ideal as it should have been. Basically, what I know now was that I was a grey area drinker. And so I wasn't at rock bottom, but I drank a little bit more than what I should for my own health and well-being. And that meant it was just that, a glass of wine. It started out as a glass of wine or two in the evening that, like, I need to relax, that this is my me time, glass of wine while I'm getting dinner ready type of thing. But then over the years, what I didn't know was just the addictive nature of alcohol and how it had built up and built my tolerance as well. So that evening glass of wine became more than just one glass. It became two, and then three. And then perhaps, I suppose, after the last 20 years, it was a bottle of wine a night. And I knew in myself that I needed to cut back or stop. But when I questioned that with myself, it became a case of, well, how? I was so reliant on this glass of wine at night, or this, by this stage, a bottle of wine. So I was in my mid-50s thinking then I really needed to look at my health a little bit more. So I looked at what I was eating. I changed my diet quite a lot and became a little bit more health conscious with what I ate. My exercise, I increased that. I joined a women's gym, and I'm thinking, I'm doing all these wonderful things. But the elephant in the room was the alcohol piece. And sort of towards like mid 2018, I started getting this rash on my face, and it would just come and go. And I thought, well, that's really weird, and I can't work out what it was. And I went to the doctor, and I found out he was actually testing me for lupus, which was like an autoimmune condition. And when I went to Dr. Google, what is lupus? What will it do? I was quite horrified. I thought, oh, wow, this is a life-altering condition that could really affect, the rest of my life, how I live and the quality of my life. So it was something that made me actually pay attention, because with that Google search, what kept coming up was alcohol. Do not drink alcohol. Alcohol will really have a severe impact on your health, and particularly with this condition. So that really made me look at what I was doing, what I was taking in, and I knew I needed to get serious about cutting back. But what I found, there was no resources out there. I did ask my doctor, what should I do? I find that I need, obviously you don't tell them exactly how much you drink, but I find most people do lie about how much they drink, or just change the truth a little bit. But all I got was just have a few alcohol-free days. Maybe just have one glass and don't have any more. But when your body is used to having that amount of alcohol and you're used to it, that is just really hard to do, because it puts you in this constant state of withdrawal, and then you're constantly wanting that next glass. So I would never say that I was an alcoholic, and they don't actually even use that term in the medical side of things now, alcoholic. But and this is only 5 years ago. All I could find to help was AA. Now, don't get me wrong, I believe that is a great resource for a lot of people that do need it. And I did go to an AA meeting, but it just wasn't for me. I was high functioning. I thought, this is not me. I'm not having like vodka on my cereal for breakfast. It's just that glass of wine in the evening, and that's my me time. I need to relax time. I deserve it time. I've had a hard day either with the kids or at work, and it's my switch off time. But what I found, as I said, there was nothing else there to help. So I did find an online course, believe it or not, because I couldn't do it on my own. I had so much trouble trying to stop on my own. I didn't have the tools, which what I know now is helpful. And so pretty much what I needed to do was shift my whole mindset. And I did bring in a lot more things for self-care, because that was a missing piece I found. And when I look back at other things in my life at the time, I was giving to everybody else and I wasn't doing anything for me. And that's where this alcohol piece came in. Oh, this is my self-care. And little did I know that I was actually self-sabotaging myself. So this is what basically led me down to the path of what I'm doing now. And then in 2020, so I've successfully stopped drinking. But in 2020, when COVID hit and we had all this time, just to, I wasn't working. I'd been made, our jobs closed down and that type of thing. So just sitting at home alone, part of what I had learned to do in ditching the booze, basically, was to meditate. And that was I'd never known how to meditate before. It was like, how do I sit and, be still? But it was just during a meditation that it just came to me that you need to be helping other women like you who've gone through or are going through the same challenges but just don't know where to turn. And that's what I decided to do. So I enrolled in a life coaching course and a diploma in life coaching. I did that, and then that opened the door for me to become what's called a grey area drinking coach. So I'm not an addiction specialist. I don't work in the medical field at all, but I trained with a grey area drinking specialist in the United States and to get my qualification through that. Now you might be thinking, okay, what's grey area drinking? Okay. So for your listeners out there, just to get a quick handle on this. So when we have like the whole alcohol spectrum, so you can go from like 0 to 100, or what we call it, I look at it as, the white to the black, basically. And there's a whole area in between, that whole grey area, where I think about 80% of the population sit. Because when you think of like an alcoholic, you think of that person in the park with a brown paper bag, sitting there, totally rock bottom. Or then you've got that person at the other end of the spectrum that might just have that one glass of wine or a beer every now and then, once a year, wedding or Christmas. But in between, there's so many other people that drink within that grey area that don't realise that they're putting their health at harm and at risk. And it's just even 1 to 2 glasses a day can be adding up to that risky behaviour, risky drinking levels. So what I like to help people or particularly women in midlife who are like me, going through all the challenges that, life throws at us. And that's not going to stop. We're going to have stress and challenges in our life every day, whether it's kids, work, family, whatever. But it's learning how to deal with that so that you're not just reaching for a glass of wine at the end of the day. And with our alcohol-centric society, it just makes it so hard. What I've found in my personal journey is that by not drinking, I'm the odd one out in a lot of cases. So what I would like to see happen is just that we can normalise sobriety, that you don't have to have any alcohol, wine to socialise, relax, have a good time, weddings, christenings, parties. If you choose to have an alcohol-free drink, whatever is your choice, and that's fine as well. That's sort of where I'm coming from, is just to create that awareness, because when I stopped drinking and looking for that help, as I mentioned earlier, there was so much shame around what I was doing, because I didn't want to tell anybody because of the fear I'm going to be judged. Oh, gee, you've got a problem with alcohol. You must be an alcoholic. And there's that mentality out there, which I still do come across. So that's why I'd like to speak up, just to let people know it's not you, it's the alcohol. That's the problem. Okay. And there's other things that we can do and to help through that. And so that's a little bit about why I started coaching. And then to move on from that, other parts that I have brought into my coaching is the emotional freedom techniques. And I just find it is just brilliant modality to help people to get to the bottom layers of why they're actually drinking. And it might be just to, that stress relief. Well, we can help with that as well. And it's just bringing in different tools and techniques to help people on an everyday basis, just to deal with life and their stresses.
Thanks for sharing, Sydney. I really appreciate your open, being so open and honest, and sharing your story around your experience with alcohol. And I would say that experience wouldn't be uncommon. It'd be quite common out there, because I certainly see clients that, the picture you're painting at the start of your journey is the picture that's painted, when I see these clients. They are high functioning people. They busy in their career. They're busy running a family, and yes, they get home at the end of the day and they think, well, I need to, I want to unwind. I deserve it. I've worked hard today. I've earned it, and bang, the bottle goes open. And once the bottle opens, I might as well finish it. So I think what you've shared is quite common out there. And particularly, as you mentioned, going into COVID, a lot of people were locked down. What else do? I haven't got a job. Just, drink and, get on FaceTime or get on Zoom and get on Teams and have a drink with my friends. And people, adopted that sort of habit then. And now they're probably thinking, I don't know how to break it. So I'm really keen to explore what you mentioned around EFT, the emotional freedom technique, and just to give the listeners an idea of how it works and a little bit more about how it can be applied and when to apply it. So if you could please share as to, more about this EFT, and it'd be great if we could go through a demonstration.
Yes, totally. So basically, emotional freedom techniques, EFT, or tapping, a lot of people may have heard it referred to as tapping. It's a very powerful self-help tool. So once you've learnt the basics of it, you can use it yourself anywhere, anytime. And that's what I love too. It's portable. And it's based on the traditional Chinese medicine principles of acupuncture. So within the body, we have meridians or energy centers, energy points that we can actually literally tap into. And this has an effect of calming the amygdala, which is a stress center in the brain. And also related to that is the hippocampus, the memory center in the brain. So by calming the amygdala, that has a flow-on effect of just calming down fight and freeze response in our central nervous system, and bringing back the body into a parasympathetic state or that rest and digest. So when we do get stressed, it activates the cortisol, those responses in the body. So that just gives that heightened sense of that fight and flight response. So if we can calm that down, the whole body can calm down. And that's what the EFT tapping does as well. So what I find that it also reduces the emotional and any negative thoughts that are going on. It can reduce physical pain as well, because the mind-body connection is just amazing. The body is just like an amazing what it actually can do. And just by stimulating these acupressure points, we can just change that the energy flow in our body too. So it reduces stress, it just can calm everything right down. And it can also be used for, apart from cravings and just calming the system down, any traumatic memories as well, physical pain, addiction, limiting beliefs. And we can change a lot of that as well, which sometimes that can be the stressor or what can lead people to having some unhealthy habits as well. So pretty much with tapping, it's an easy process, but it may look a bit weird. Okay, so if you'd like to go through this with me, I'll take you through. So there's like 5 steps to it basically. So we start with identifying what is the issue, what is the problem. And that's a crucial part, because we actually bring up the negative, and because the body is always listening. So we're bringing up what's the issue, what's the problem, or the target, we call it. And so just for general, let's just say it's stress. Like ideally, it's better to be specific with what is actually the issue. So we really want to pinpoint what the problem is, and that works best. So we just identify, and then if you can tune into the body, often you can feel something that's going on, like you can feel a flutter. If you're nervous, you feel a flutter in your tummy, or you might feel a tightness in your throat, or little tightness in your chest. There might be something that you can feel in your body. So then what we ask you to do is just to think about what's going on for you, whatever the issue is. Let's say, even though I feel stressed, just thinking about doing this podcast interview today. Okay. And out of 10, so 0 being the lowest, like no stress at all. 10 being, off the charts, I'm so stressed. Then you just find a number. Let's say it was like a 6 out of 10. Okay. So even though I feel stressed just thinking about this podcast interview today, and then we balance it out with an acceptance statement. Okay. So normally it's something along the lines of, I deeply and completely accept myself. But if you don't feel that you can say that, it could just be, I accept, that's just how I feel right now. Okay. So that's our setup statement. And we start by tapping on the side of our hand. So it's from, I'll just explain for the listeners here at the moment. So it's from the bottom of your wrist up to the point of your little finger. So that edge of the side of your hand. They used to call it the karate chop, but it's just the side of the hand. And we just start tapping on that. And we'll say 3 times, and I'll get you to repeat after me, Anthony, if that's okay. Even though I feel this stress.
Even though I feel this stress.
I deeply and completely accept myself anyway.
I deeply and completely accept myself anyway.
Okay, we'll say that 2 more times. So even though I feel this stress.
Even though I feel this stress, I deeply and completely accept myself.
Okay, once more. Even though I feel this stress.
I deeply and completely accept myself.
Okay, so the next point we're going to go to is just the top of the head. Okay, so if you were to take your thumbs at the top of your ears, bring your fingers together, that's just the top of your head. Okay, probably is where your headphone is. So we're just going to tap there on the top of the head and just repeat. This is what we call the repeat phrase, is just distress.
Distress.
Okay, distress. And then we go to the side of the eyebrow, just on the inner corner of the eyebrow. So we're right on the eyebrow there. Okay, just on the inner corner of the eyebrow. So this stress. That's it. And then we're going to follow that orbital bone around to the side of the eye and say that again, this stress.
This stress.
Then we're just going to keep following that round, come under the eye, and in the middle under the eye, we're going to just repeat this stress.
This stress.
Then we're going to come under the nose and to say it again, this stress.
This stress.
This stress. And then we're going to come under the lip. So just in the chin crease there, we're going to tap on that meridian point and just say this stress.
Distress.
And our next point is our collarbones. So just where your collarbones are, where they come into that little section in your neck there, you just go out about an inch and just tap in there. Once again, just repeat.
Distress.
And our last point is just under the arm. So if you just take about a hand width under the arm and just tap there as well. And just say distress.
Distress.
Okay. And then I'll just get you to take in a breath and breathe out. And then if you just go back and if you can just think about that rating that you had at the start, between 0 and 10, and it may go up, it may go down, but can you re-rate that now? So just
I certainly feel relaxed, more relaxed than what I was.
Okay.
So it's
So
had an impact. Absolutely. Yeah.
So,
I
so it can be that quick.
Yeah, I feel certainly lighter in myself and not as heavy, and actually energized is the other thing I'm feeling as a result of you taking me through that really quick and simple exercise.
Fabulous. And sometimes it can be like, I just think of it like the energy centers in our body can get blocked, a little bit like if you have a hose and the water flows through, but then sometimes it gets a kink in it. And then it just gets blocked up in that area. So just tapping and doing these simple techniques can just unkink that hose and just let the water or the energy flow through a little bit easier.
And do you recommend that to clients when they get home from work as an unwind, to sort of get them into home mode, like to get them sort of out of work mode, get them into home mode, start relaxing into their home and relaxing into the evening? Would you suggest this as a transition sort of to help them de-stress from the day, as opposed to opening a bottle and pouring a glass?
Well, it certainly is a great tool because once they walk in and they think, oh, I'm so stressed, I really need that glass of wine, then they can start tapping. Even though I feel stressed because I've had a rough day or whatever, or the kids are yelling, and, that's the time to tap. So when something is actually going on that they need to de-stress from.
Have you done it with your kids? Have you found it really helps kids get present and away from a stress that they may have, like over an exam or some looming?
Absolutely. And even I did a chasing the pain type one with my son. He was just complaining, I've got this headache. And he hadn't actually done a lot of EFT at all, or hadn't done any actually. So I'm like, well, come on, let's just try this. Just took him through one round. He's like, oh, wow, Mum, that's amazing. It's gone. So it does help, even with people that, are skeptical or haven't had any exposure to it, just for them to feel the shift in themselves. It's amazing. And there is actually, sorry, just to interrupt you there, talking about kids, programs going into schools. They're doing trials with that now, and especially with children around ADHD and attention disorders as well. And plus just their learning. And as you mentioned, around stress, around exams, it just helps in so many different areas.
Yeah, because I was just thinking of anxious kids, and certainly anxiety is on the rise with, teenagers, adolescents. And so, I thought this would be a fantastic little tool that they could introduce to de-stress themselves and get more present and get back to the moment, as opposed to worried about the future.
Oh, absolutely. And that's something that I'm really pleased to be talking about this today, is just to raise awareness, because what I'm finding out there in the community, not many people have heard of EFT at all. And I've just introduced it to some of the women in my local gym, and they're like, wow, this is amazing. I just really love this. And as I've been a volunteer with Look Good, Feel Better, which is an organisation that helps people going through their cancer treatment. And my previous background was as a makeup artist. So for nearly 20 years, that's what I did with them that way. But I've now just transitioned into doing workshops with the ladies going through or anyone going through their cancer treatment, because there's so much anxiety, stress, worry and fear around what they're going through. And just to be able to help them calm that, it actually benefits them going through their treatment, and they can deal with things a lot better. So the more people that can be taught how to do EFT, the better, I think.
And Sydney, how can people get in touch with you and find out how they can master the EFT technique and add it to their repertoire of ways to de-stress and unwind?
Probably find me on my website. It's probably the easiest way. It's just soulsobriety.com.au. And at the moment, I do have like an EFT tapping taster bundle. offer. So people just want to have a go, try EFT, 3 sessions. I do a free discovery session as well. We can have a chat and just see if it works for them, and also just to teach them how to do the basics of EFT so that they can do it for themselves and manage their own stress or whatever issues that have come up. But also too, for the alcohol side of things, I have a free download on my website, the Wine O'Clock Survival Guide. So it's getting through that witching hour without having to reach for that glass of wine as well. So there's some extra great tips on that too. So
fantastic. So I'll include those links in the show notes, listeners. So if you're interested in learning more about EFT and would like a taster, please go to the show notes and click on the link. Or if you want the alcohol-free survival guide, please, download it. It's a free guide, and I'm sure it would provide some great assistance, given that Sydney is a lived example of someone that's lived through what you're going through, or you sort of want to leave and distance and leave behind you. She survived and she got through successfully and's got these new techniques, and I guess you look back now and think, I feel so much better for having let it go. And no doubt, Sydney, you've got more energy, you sleep better, you're functioning even better, more highly. So
oh, totally. And they are just some of the benefits. I love to speak about positive sobriety because I didn't give anything up. I only gained. And to me, that is just the best part. And, not just the sleep and the weight loss as well. That's a bonus. But just the personal growth and other people that have come into my life, enriching it in so many positive ways as well. So
yeah, absolutely.
But thank you so much for the opportunity as well. I really appreciate that today, Anthony.
Oh, you're welcome. I really appreciate you reaching out and connecting with me and coming on the show and imparting your wisdom with the Me and My Health Up listeners. So thanks for coming on the show. And to the listeners, thanks for tuning in to another insightful episode. For those that know someone out there that's struggling with alcohol, please share this episode with them. They could find a real magic bullet, or hopefully the silver bullet, that could really help propel them forward so that they shed the kilos, like Sydney said, and she's, more energy and better functioning, better sleep, and a better life for having learnt this technique. So please share it with others that could also benefit. And thanks for listening to another insightful episode of Me and My Health Up. Podcast disclaimer. This podcast and any information, advice, opinions or statements within it do not constitute medical, healthcare or professional advice and are provided for general information purposes only. All care is taken in the preparation of the information in this podcast. Connected Wellness Proprietary Limited, operating under the brand Me and My Health Up, does not make any representations or give any warranties about its accuracy, reliability, completeness, or suitability for any particular purpose. This podcast and any information, advice, opinions, or statements within it are not to be used as a substitute for professional, medical, psychological, psychiatric, or any other mental health care or healthcare in general. Me and My Health Up recommends you seek the advice of a doctor or qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition. Inform your doctor of any changes that you may to your lifestyle and discuss these with your doctor. Do not disregard medical advice or delay visiting a medical professional because of something you hear in this podcast. This podcast has been carefully prepared on the basis of current information. Changes in circumstances after publication may affect the accuracy of this information. To the maximum extent permitted by the law, Me and My Health Up disclaims any such representations or warranties to the completeness, accuracy, merchantability, or fitness for purpose of this podcast and will not be liable for any expenses, losses, damages incurred, indirect or consequential damages or costs that may be incurred as a result of the information being inaccurate or incomplete in any way and for any reason. No part of this podcast can be reproduced, redistributed, published, copied, or duplicated in a form without prior permission of Me and My Health Up.